Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to another weekly reading wrap-up. I finished 4 books this past week, 1 nonfiction book, 1 middle grade book, and 2 Shakespeare plays. And I'm pretty happy with that because I thought I wasn't going to do any reading this week, but I did manage to get in some. It's been busy around here. So the first thing that I finished was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is the first book in her new middle grade series about a young girl named Cassidy who, after a near-death experience, can see ghosts, and her best friend Jacob is a ghost. He's kind of haunting her. Cassidy's parents are both pretty well-known ghost hunters. They are a writing duo. Her mother is a believer, her father is a skeptic. And they get the opportunity to film a television show. They're going to go to various haunted cities around the world to film that, and they take Cassidy with them. In this first book, they go to Edinburgh in Scotland, one of the most haunted cities ever, apparently. And there, while her parents are off filming, Cassidy basically learns more about herself and her ability, that she's not the only person who can see ghosts and part the veil, as it were. This really felt like a setup novel. In fact, I feel like not much actually happened in it. There is an encounter with a malevolent ghost and that needs to be solved, but it felt very rushed and crammed into the very last part of the book, and then it just, that was it. I felt like it was just resolved so quickly. So I'm not really fond of first books in a series that are so blatantly just setup. I think every book in a series should be a relatively self-contained story. It should be more satisfying, let's say, to get to the end of it. But despite that, and despite the difficulties I've had with Schwab's books, this is like the 5th book I've read by her. I would actually say this is one of the ones I enjoyed reading the most. This and Vicious. Wildly different books, kind of. I liked the premise of this, let's say. I do think that this is a good premise for a middle grade series because it provides a believable way for a child to travel and meet many different types of ghosts. Because Cassidy's parents are filming this television program, there's a lot of travel built into the series, and I really liked that. There's opportunity for Cassidy to encounter ghosts from different cultures, different countries, different time periods because they're ghosts. And I'm excited by that prospect at the same time that I'm very aware that Schwab continually disappoints me by not taking advantage of the wonderful opportunities that her premises provide her with. I also noticed that she repeats things that seem to be her favorite setup details. For example, here, Cassidy has a near-death drowning experience, and her parents are well-known writers and a duo that writes together. And those 2 elements were also used in Vicious, with Sydney having a near-death dying experience in water and Vincent Vale's parents being writers. Of course, Cassidy's parents have a better relationship with her, and I was thankful for that. I love middle grade books, books for children, for younger readers that show good, loving relationships between parents and their children. That's just something I appreciate. But anyway, it was a good story despite being mostly set up, and my highest praise for it, frankly, is that I intend on reading the sequel when it comes out in September. After that, I finished parts 1 and 2 of Henry VI. There's also a part 3 that I'm currently in the middle of, and I think I'm going to talk about this whole thing all at once, even though I'm not done with it because more of the same. I don't have that much to say about these plays. They chronicle, of course, the reign of Henry VI, which is a time period of English history where things were kind of falling apart. Henry VI was a pretty weak king. He was crowned when he was like 9 months old, I think. And there were many protectors and other nobles ruling the country basically for him. So it's a time period where England is basically losing its claims to France and the French throne because Henry VI is such a weak king. And there's a lot of internal strife and squabbling between the nobles, and this is also kind of the rise of Richard, Duke of York or whatever, who will eventually try to steal the throne. And yeah, I like knowing the historical events. That is very interesting, but as stories in a play, it's not super engaging for me. It's not nearly as immersive or arousing as the previous one, Henry V, was, so mainly it's all right. And lastly this week I finished Beautiful No-Mow Yards, 50 Amazing Lawn Alternatives by Evelyn J. Hadden. This is a nonfiction book, a really good resource for beginning to get rid of your grass and replace it with alternatives that are beautiful and require less care and don't require constant mowing and fertilizing and poisoning and all of that. This is a goal of mine to steadily remove my lawn and replace it with things so I don't have to mow, because I absolutely hate mowing. I currently pay my neighbor to do it for me, but someday he won't be around and I would like to never have to go back to mowing when I don't have my neighbor to do it for me. So this particular book is excellent for my needs. I live in the American Midwest and the author is kind of from that area, and the book mainly focuses on gardens and case studies and plants and stuff from the American Midwest and Southwest. It is partly inspiration. It has a lot of pictures which give you a visual for what some established gardens eventually end up looking like, which is really, really helpful, especially for me. In my area, there are not a lot of things like this unless you travel pretty far to a botanical garden, so it's hard to understand how big things actually get or what fully established, well-grown plants are gonna look like and all of that. So yeah, I loved having the pictures in this. What I most loved about it is that the author gives specific plant recommendations for different needs, and she describes how various gardeners solved their problems with specific types of plants. And there is a whole section at the back where she lists a bunch of common plants used for things with some pictures, and she organizes them according to categories like minglers, fill-in plants, mounding plants, things like that, which is also very helpful if you are trying to choose things based on how quickly they grow, do they form mats, are they very tall, height is a big thing for me. So yeah, this was just great. Really, really good if you're getting started. I am trying to find some further reading. That's another drawback of this book. Maybe it's the topic. Maybe it's not just this book, but just the topic itself. There aren't that many things available on it. But I really wanted a resources or further reading section. I tried to follow up on the author's work and some of the things like the Lawn Reform Coalition that she belongs to. And I just found a bunch of dead end and out-of-date websites, and that was kind of disappointing, but I'm hoping to find some more stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading this, and I am, as I've said before, on fire to plant all of the things, and yes, a garden video is coming soon. So that is it. That's everything I finished this past week. Hopefully I will have more time to read over the coming week, but we will see. It is Memorial Day weekend, and I hope to get some more reading in before I go back to work as well. So let me know if you have read any of these books, if you have any thoughts on them. Leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear from you, and I will talk to you again soon, and until then, bye.